This video started because my SSD began doing something every creator hates. This drive had spent years storing old projects, client work and backup footage. I barely thought about it until it started disconnecting. Then disk utility started throwing errors and suddenly I wasn't worried about storage speed. I was wondering whether I could trust it. What started as a search for replacement turned into a much bigger experiment because I might have accidentally built the fastest external storage setup I've ever used. And there's one result I genuinely wasn't expecting. My M.2 iMac has only 256 gigs of internal storage, so my active projects already live on 4 TB external SSD. The older drive is basically my archive. But once that drive started disconnecting and throwing errors, and I didn't really want to replace it with another sealed external SSD. So instead of simply replacing it, I started looking at a completely different approach, and that's how I ended up here. The ACASIS TB501 Max. The enclosure itself makes a good first impression. Solid aluminium, good weight, no flex, and there's the sliding mechanism. It sounds like a tiny detail, but every time it clicks closed, it feels properly engineered. Installing the SSD takes less than a minute. Slide it open, insert the drive, secure it, slide it shut, done. Luckily, I already had the perfect test drive. This is an Orico 2 TB NVMe SSD that normally gets used in my mini PC testing. It's rated for around 7000 MB per second, fast drive. What I needed was an enclosure that could actually make use of it. And that's where ACASIS comes in. An 80 GB per second enclosure designed for Thunderbolt 5 and USB 4 V2 systems. But I wasn't interested in another benchmark exercise. I wanted to know what actually happens when you put the same SSD and the same enclosure on completely different machines. There's one other thing I needed to know. Can I actually trust it? But before I started running benchmarks, I went down a bit of a rabbit hole. While researching the enclosure, I found reports of disconnects. Some users even claimed their SSDs eventually became read-only after repeated dropouts. Now, internet forums are internet forums. Different SSDs, different firmware, different machines, different cables, so you can't automatically blame the enclosure. But after what had just happened to my own archive drive, I wasn't going to ignore those reports, so I didn't just test how fast this thing was. I tested whether it could stay stable, large transfers, video projects, multiple machines, and of course thermal testing. So was it fast? Yes, very fast. On the M.2 iMac over USB 3, everything felt responsive. Large project folders loaded quickly. Footage was very easy to work with, directly from the drive. But then I moved the exact same setup to the MS S1 Max. And this is where the experiment got interesting, because the SSD hadn't changed, the enclosure hadn't changed, even the cable hadn't changed, only the connection did. This was the slowest result I recorded. Same Mac, same SSD, same enclosure, just different port. And suddenly we're in completely different territory. And we're still using the same drive. Then USB 4 V2 took it even further. The enclosure never changed, the SSD never changed, only the connection did. And this is the important bit. An 80 GB per second enclosure doesn't magically give you 80 GB per second performance. Your computer has to be able to feed it. I proved that on the M.2 iMac itself. Over USB 3 I was getting around 700 MB per second read. Moved the exact same setup to Thunderbolt 4 and suddenly I'm over 3000. Same Mac, same SSD, same enclosure, just a different connection. And that's when storage reaches a strange point. You stop noticing it. When storage is slow, you constantly feel it. You wait for it, you plan for it. When it's fast enough, it disappears. That's exactly what happened here. The enclosure stopped feeling like external storage. It started feeling like an extension of the machine itself. And that made me wonder what happens when you really push it. This is where I expected to find a weakness. We've all seen it, a fantastic benchmark result, then 5 minutes into a large transfers, temperatures climb and performance falls off a cliff. So out came the thermal camera, and honestly the result surprised me. The hottest point I recorded around the enclosure vents was about 38-39 degrees Celsius. Warm, definitely working, but nowhere near the kind of temperature that made me worry. The enclosure body was warming up exactly where I expected it to. Heat was spreading through the aluminium housing rather than building up around isolated hotspots. That's generally a good sign. The enclosure is doing what it should, moving heat away from the SSD rather than trapping it around the controller. I spent far longer staring at thermal images than any normal person probably should, but considering the reports I had found, I wanted to understand what was actually happening. And during my testing, I never saw anything that made me uncomfortable. No dramatic spikes, no obvious thermal runaway, nothing that suggested the drive was cooking itself. Now, does that prove every negative report online is wrong? Not at all. It simply means I couldn't reproduce those issues in my testing. And there's one important reality check here. Those huge transfer speeds don't come from the enclosure alone. The host machine matters just as much. On the M.2 iMac, changing from USB 3 to Thunderbolt 4 took me from around 700 MB per second read to over 3000. The MacBook Air M3 landed in the same territory. The Minisforum MS-S1 Max pushed beyond 4000 over USB 4 and beyond 6000 with USB 4 V2. Same drive, same enclosure, very different C-links. And there's another interesting comparison. The MS-S1 Max's internal SSD itself managed around 6157 read and almost 5500 write. So over USB 4 V2, this external setup is getting close to machine's own internal storage performance. That's the point where an external SSD enclosure becomes generally interesting. To unlock those numbers though, you need a machine with enough bandwidth available. Thunderbolt 5, or in this case USB 4 version 2 implementation. And I don't actually see that as a downside because this enclosure can outlive the machine connected to it. Use it today on an older Mac, upgrade your computer in 2 years, suddenly the enclosure can take advantage of the extra bandwidth without you replacing the storage again. That's actually a pretty nice position to be in. But there's another reality check. A benchmark takes minutes. Trust takes months. And no matter how fast your storage becomes, none of it matters without backups. The entire reason this video exists is because an aging SSD started showing warning signs. This experience didn't just remind me to upgrade my storage, it reminded me to protect it. So, who is this actually for? I think it's ideal for people who work with large datasets, video editors, photographers, local AI users. People regularly moving huge project files between machines. People who don't want their storage permanently attached to a single computer. Who should avoid it? Probably anybody expecting dramatic improvements on older hardware. If your machine can't provide the bandwidth, you're paying for potential rather than immediate performance. And if most of your storage needs involve documents, web browsing or occasional backups, there are much cheaper ways to solve that problem. Would I spend my own money on it? Honestly, yes, not because it's simply fast. What sold me was the flexibility. Being able to choose SSD, being able to swap it later, being able to move it between completely different systems. And knowing that if one component fails, I'm not replacing the entire thing. So here's the question. If you were building your setup today, would you choose a sealed external SSD that's simple and convenient, or an enclosure like this, where you choose the SSD, upgrade it later and keep the flexibility? And more importantly, which one would you trust with your important files? What you think? Let me know in the comments.
Family Pop TV.